Hey everyone, and welcome back. Imagine a ripple effect starting quietly, then swelling into a tidal wave, hitting 10 major U.S. states like a financial meteor. What if our friendly neighbors to the north, Canada, decided to hit where it hurts most, tourism? It sounds impossible, unthinkable even, for such close allies. But today we're not just imagining it, we're breaking down the shocking hypothetical. 10 USA states crushed by Canada's tourism boycott. Get ready to explore which states would feel the deepest economic pain, why Canada holds such unexpected power, and what a complete shutdown of cross-border travel could truly mean for the American economy. First, let's set the stage for this dramatic hypothetical. While Canada and the U.S. share the world's longest undefended border and an incredibly close relationship, it's precisely this proximity and integration that creates a unique vulnerability. A full-scale Canadian tourism boycott, not just a temporary travel restriction, but a deliberate, sustained decision by millions of Canadians to simply stop visiting the U.S., would be an unprecedented act. It would likely stem from a profound political disagreement, a major policy dispute, or perhaps even a severe public health crisis that only impacts one side. Whatever the cause, the economic consequences for specific U.S. states would be far more devastating than many might realize. Canadians are not just casual visitors. They are America's largest source of international tourists. In a normal year pre-pandemic, Canadians made tens of millions of visits to the U.S., spending billions of dollars. They are crucial for border communities, major cities, and seasonal attractions, filling hotels, dining at restaurants, shopping at malls, and fueling local economies. Unlike visitors from distant countries who might fly in once every few years, Canadians often make multiple shorter trips throughout the year, daily commuters, weekend shoppers, seasonal snowbirds, and vacationers. This consistent, high-volume presence makes their absence a catastrophic blow. New York, sharing a significant portion of its northern border with Ontario and Quebec, would be absolutely devastated. Cities like Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and Watertown rely heavily on Canadian visitors who come for shopping, entertainment, and especially the iconic Niagara Falls. Millions of Canadians cross into New York annually. A boycott wouldn't just affect tourist attractions. It would cripple retail sectors, gas stations, hotels, and restaurants. Beyond the border towns, even New York City sees substantial Canadian tourism impacting Broadway, museums, and high-end shopping. The economic ripple effect would be immense, as local jobs tied to tourism disappear, leading to business closures and a cascade of secondary impacts on services and suppliers across the state. The sheer volume of daily and weekly Canadian visitors makes New York's economy incredibly sensitive to this cross-border flow. Michigan, with its critical border crossings in Detroit and Port Huron linking to Ontario, is another state that would face immediate and severe economic hardship. The Detroit-Windsor Tunnel and Ambassador Bridge are not just trade arteries. They are conduits for countless Canadian shoppers, casino-goers, and event attendees. Areas like Frankenmuth, a popular Bavarian-themed town, and other tourist destinations also draw significant Canadian visitors. Beyond direct tourism, the integrated auto industry means that a decline in consumer spending could have wider economic consequences. A boycott would empty casinos, reduce retail sales dramatically, and cause a significant downturn in the service sector jobs that support Canadian visitors. On the West Coast, Washington State shares a busy border with British Columbia. Vancouver's proximity to Seattle makes cross-border travel incredibly common for both leisure and business. Canadians flock to Washington for cheaper goods, specific shopping experiences, and access to destinations like the North Cascades National Park or Seattle's cultural attractions. A boycott would hit retail hardest, especially in border towns, and significantly impact the hospitality and entertainment sectors in Seattle and surrounding areas. The reliance of some shopping centers on Canadian consumer spending is immense, and their absence would leave a gaping hole in sales tax revenue. Vermont, a smaller state with a strong tourism industry, would feel an outsized impact. Its picturesque towns, ski resorts like Stowe and Killington, and outdoor attractions are popular with Quebec residents, many of whom own second homes or are frequent visitors. A Canadian boycott would specifically devastate the state's ski industry, fall foliage tourism, and local artisan markets. Its relatively small economy means that the loss of Canadian tourism dollars would represent a much larger percentage of its overall economic activity compared to a larger state like New York, leading to a profound and immediate crisis for its rural communities and seasonal businesses. Similar to Vermont, Maine's economy, especially in its northern and coastal regions, has a substantial reliance on Canadian tourists from Quebec and the maritime provinces. They come for its rugged coastline, national parks, Acadia, and quaint towns. A boycott would cripple the lobster industry's direct sales to visitors, bed and breakfasts, summer rentals, and outdoor adventure businesses. The vast wilderness areas and coastal towns, which thrive on seasonal Canadian visitors, would suddenly become ghost towns, leading to widespread job losses in communities that have limited economic diversification. Florida is arguably the most popular U.S. destination for Canadian snowbirds and tourists, particularly during the winter months. Millions of Canadians flock to Florida, often for weeks or months, renting condos, buying property, and spending heavily on golf, theme parks, Disney, Universal, beaches, and dining. A Canadian tourism boycott would devastate Florida's hospitality sector, real estate, especially seasonal rentals and condo sales, retail and service industries, from theme park employees to restaurant staff and golf course operators. Cities like Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Sarasota would see significant economic downturns. This isn't just about lost hotel nights. It's about the consistent daily spending of a large, affluent group of long-term visitors who contribute to local property taxes, utility usage, and various service industries. While California attracts tourists from all over the world, Canada remains a top source. Canadians visit California for its national parks, theme parks, cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, and wine regions. A boycott would affect the hospitality industry, theme parks, cultural attractions, and high-end retail across the state. While California's economy is massive and diverse, the sheer volume of Canadian visits means their absence would leave a significant void, particularly in popular tourist areas. The impact would be less about a complete collapse of smaller towns, but more about a notable contraction in major urban tourism sectors. Arizona is another prime destination for Canadian snowbirds seeking warmth and sunshine during the winter. They are a vital part of the economy in cities like Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tucson, impacting seasonal rental markets, golf courses, resorts, and local businesses that cater to retirees and winter visitors. A boycott would lead to a significant drop in seasonal rental income, resort bookings, and spending on leisure activities, causing widespread job losses in the hospitality and service industries that depend on this annual migration. The specialized services catering to Canadian snowbirds would face immense pressure. Las Vegas, in particular, is a magnet for Canadian tourists who come for its casinos, entertainment, and nightlife. Millions of Canadians visit Nevada annually, making substantial contributions to the state's gaming, hospitality, and entertainment revenues. A boycott would directly impact casino revenue, hotel occupancy, restaurant sales, and live entertainment venues. Given Nevada's heavy reliance on tourism and gaming, the absence of its largest international visitor group would cause a profound and immediate economic contraction, leading to layoffs across the leisure and hospitality sectors. While not bordering Canada, Hawaii is a premier vacation destination for many Canadians, especially during the colder months. They contribute significantly to the island's tourism-dependent economy, staying in resorts, dining out, and participating in excursions. A boycott, while perhaps less impactful than for border states, would still result in a substantial loss of revenue for hotels, airlines, tour operators, and local businesses across all Hawaiian Islands. Given Hawaii's singular reliance on tourism, any significant reduction in visitors from a major source country represents a tangible threat to its economic stability. The direct economic hit from lost tourism dollars would be just the beginning. A Canadian tourism boycott would trigger a series of cascading consequences, amplifying the crisis in these 10 states and potentially rippling across the nation. The most immediate human cost would be widespread layoffs in the hospitality, retail, food service, transportation, and entertainment sectors. These are often low-wage jobs, meaning the affected individuals have little financial cushion, exacerbating social welfare challenges. Entire communities built around tourism would face severe unemployment rates. Many small and medium-sized businesses, especially those in border towns or tourist-dependent areas, operate on thin margins. The sudden and sustained loss of their primary customer base would force countless restaurants, shops, hotels, and tour operators to close permanently, leaving behind empty storefronts and decimated commercial districts. In areas where Canadian snowbirds or part-time residents own homes, a boycott could lead to a surge of properties on the market, particularly if these owners decide to sell off their investments due to prolonged absence or economic pressure. This influx of supply, combined with reduced local demand due to job losses, could cause a significant downturn in housing prices in these specific regions. While tourism is direct, it also supports vast supply chains. Farms that sell produce to restaurants, laundries that service hotels, local transportation companies, all would feel the pinch. This ripple effect would extend far beyond the immediate tourism industry, impacting diverse sectors. It's important to differentiate between states with highly diversified economies and those with heavy tourism dependence. While a state like California might have a massive absolute loss in tourism revenue, its overall economy is so vast and varied that it might absorb the shock more effectively than a state like Vermont or Maine, where tourism is a much larger percentage of their GDP. However, even for larger, more diverse states, the concentration of Canadian tourism in specific regions means that localized crushing impacts would still occur. Think of Niagara Falls, New York, or Fort Lauderdale, Florida. These are not just minor tourist towns. They are significant economic hubs within their respective states, and their collapse would send shockwaves far beyond their city limits. The U.S. economy, as a whole, is incredibly robust. It would likely recover over time, perhaps by seeking to attract tourists from other international markets or through domestic travel campaigns. But the specific states, and more importantly, the specific communities heavily reliant on that consistent, close proximity Canadian traffic, would be left with deep, long-lasting scars. Many small businesses would never reopen, and the landscape of these borderland and seasonal destinations could be permanently altered. This hypothetical scenario, while unlikely to occur without extreme provocation, highlights a critical truth. Even the strongest economies have vulnerabilities, and strong, symbiotic relationships can also create unforeseen dependencies. The very friendliness and ease of access that define the U.S.-Canada border relationship also make certain U.S. states incredibly exposed to any disruption in that flow. It's a reminder that global politics, even between allies, can have very real and immediate local consequences.